Okay, today guys we're going to be repairing this bumper right here on my wife's 2008 Toyota Highlander. I won't call any names, but obviously somebody backed into some concrete. So let's take a look at seeing how we can fix this. Alright, before we go any further and I get into this repair, I've got to start by giving you basically two warnings, two disclaimers before we go forward. One, I want you to know I have no experience doing body work whatsoever. I have no experience painting cars. I'm not even good at painting. Matter of fact, I hate painting. I hate painting, whether it be a wall in the house or something simple. I'm not good at painting. I don't like it. Have no enjoyment out of it. The second thing is, I probably did 100 things wrong in this video. I watched tons of videos. I read tons of articles online on how to do each step of this. I watched the videos from the manufacturer of these products. And the one thing I've concluded is that when it comes to painting a car and body work, apparently there's a bunch of wrong ways, but there's not necessarily a right way. Because there are industry veterans who've been doing this for 30 and 40 years who argue with each other like children on YouTube videos and websites saying that's not how you should do it. And I don't know. I don't know the right answer. So I probably did a ton of things wrong, and that's fine. You judge by yourself the end result from someone who's never done this and had nobody helping him other than watching some videos on YouTube. And hopefully this will show you that even if you're as clueless as I am when it comes to body work and painting, that maybe you can tackle a project like this yourself. So you be the judge, but don't throw any hate mail my way. I've told you I don't know what I'm doing, so it might not be perfect, but it is what it is, and we'll go from there. So let's get started. Alright, enough of that. So let's start by just washing the area that we're going to be repairing. So it's just soap and water. I'm just going to clean it up. And you'll see a lot of these videos I'm going to speed up so you don't have to watch it, especially boring parts or repetitive parts. So just going to clean it up and wash it. And then before we go much further, I'm going to take some 180 grit sandpaper and I'm just going to sand the area down. Now all of this stuff I got from AutomotiveTouchup.com. They're not paying me, not a review. Just found all this online at this website that had the perfect color match and all that. So shout out to AutomotiveTouchup.com. So just some 180 grit sandpaper, just gonna sand the area down. I've got to get all that plastic pitting, and it's okay if there's pits in there, but you can't have any plastic protruding. So I've got to rough all that off. I saw some people use their razor blade. So here's the final result after me sanding it and getting it smooth. Then I'm using this Bondo bumper repair kit. To be honest, I ended up having to use two of these kits, but it's basically just an epoxy. It's two parts. You mix them together, and it's this nice black rubber. And I bought some little spreader blades as well. These little ones that came with a little Bondo kit as well. So again, I bought one kit from Automotive Touchup. Found out it wasn't enough. Had to run down to AutoZone and get a second one because of this repair. I didn't know how much to buy to start with. So you live and learn. And it's really just kind of like sheetrocking a wall or anything else. I figured, like I do in everything in life, if a little bit's good, then too much is even better. So I'm sure I put more than I needed on all these areas, but I figured you could always sand it down. So spread that over all the gaps, and then I'll speed this part up as I had to go and get my second kit. And again, not much to this. Is pretty easy. You get to sand it down and smooth it out later. So if you make a mistake here, I don't think that's a big deal. You can always come back. So we get all of this on here. And I will warn you that this stuff, even when it's dry, I felt like it still had a little bit of tack to it. I even doubled the drying time, and I still felt like it had a little bit of tack to it. So then I'm going to come back. I'm just going to dry sand it. And this is with my 180 sandpaper again. So I just went back and dry sanded the whole area to kind of get it as smooth as I could. And then that's the 180 sandpaper I used. So this is what it looked like after I dry sanded it. Now I'm going to take some 320 and I'm going to wet sand the area and get it as smooth as possible so that we can get it prepared and ready to basically prime. So 180 to rough sand it, then some 320 to kind of get it nice and smooth. So here's our final result. Now here's some prep solvent, which again I got from the same company. And my understanding of prep solvent is it's really just some probably overpriced liquid that you pay for that's designed to make sure there's no dirt and grease, because obviously grease and oil and all that stuff will stop the paint from adhering. So that's what that is. I got a little clean cloth. So use the prep solvent to make sure there's absolutely no grease or oil on there that would stop any sort of, or cause any sort of adhesive process when we get to some later steps. And then once we get that finished, we have to go back with some 1000 grit sandpaper. This is per the can of, I'm going to be using some adhesion promoter, and it recommended that you dry sand with 1000 grit sandpaper before applying the adhesion promoter, which, to my understanding, the adhesion promoter is something you generally just use on bumpers, plastic bumpers and such. It helps the paint and primer stick to it a lot better, and you generally don't have to use this on metal parts. Again, my understanding, you can be the judge yourself when you see the final result. So basically just roughing it up with some 1000 grit sandpaper, which helps that adhesion promoter to bind to the bumper as well as possible. And I did see some videos that show if you don't use adhesion promoter, a lot of times that's when you get the peeling, which is very common on bumpers and things such as that. So we'll give it a try. Again, I'm winging all of this. And you'll notice that I did this entire process outside. I wish I could do it in my garage. I could. The lighting in my garage stinks, and I just haven't invested in some lights that would allow me to do this inside the garage, which I know would have a lot less dust and be a lot easier to do a lot of this. So unfortunately, one day maybe I can do that. Right now, it's just generally not it's not feasible for me. So you'll see I'm doing this outside, which makes this even more difficult because I'm battling the wind and dirt and dust being blown around. So anyway, we've sanded it 1000, just washed it down again. You'll see I went and taped off the area just with some cheap painter's tape I had and some plastic grocery bags. Going back with some prep solvent, making sure I don't have any grease, oil, or anything like that on there before we spray this down. I made sure to let it dry. I'm taking this little tack rag I got, also from the same place. This is a Bondo tack rag, but I got it from the AutomotiveTouchup website. And if they want to maybe mail me some like boxes of cash or something, I'm happy to take that. But otherwise, just want you to see that you can probably do this at home. So here's the adhesion promoter. It recommends 2 coats, approximately 5 minutes apart. So I'm just going to spray this down, and before you comment that I really should have taped off more of the car, as you can see I did not tape off another car, and I also mentioned I knew what I was doing. So second coat, but yeah, I didn't tape off enough of the car. You'll see the results of that later in this video, and it was easy to fix, so it wasn't that big a deal. So let the adhesion promoter dry. Gonna throw this tack rag on it again. Again, if you never used a tack rag, and I know this may sound stupid, but I haven't, it's just a really kind of unusually sticky rag. It's kind of crazy. I mean, it kind of gets on your fingers too, but it's designed to pick up any dust, dirt, or anything that's left on there, but without leaving anything behind. So now let's prime it. Now this primer I'm using, it recommended 3 coats, approximately 5 to 10 minutes between coats, so you'll see exactly that. Now, normally I read that you should sand the area before you prime it, but from what I read on their website, if you laid down that adhesion promoter, you should not sand it. You spray the primer directly over the adhesion promoter. Maybe that's right, maybe it's wrong. Again, don't know. That's what the manufacturer recommended, so that's what we'll go with. And I don't know the long-term results of this. It's been on the car for 3 months and looks pretty good. Maybe long-term I should have done something differently. But let's get our 3 coats of primer on there. I actually like this process because now I feel like it looked pretty good. So now I'm going to wet sand with some 600 grit sandpaper. And this was actually one of the recommendations before you put your base coat on. It did recommend that you wet sand the area with 600. So that's what we're doing. Yeah, having never done this before, this was actually it was kind of nerve-wracking that I got the car to this extent, which, you know, past the point of no return. But it was really, really cool, in my opinion, to watch the transformation from, you know, the nasty bumper to now at least it's nice and smooth. Obviously it's gray and very tacky, trashy looking, but it is what it is. So wash it down. We're going to use the tack rag, make sure we don't have any dirt or dust on there, and you'll see make sure you don't have any water that sneaks in here either. That was a lesson I learned the hard way. So now we're doing the base coat, the first base coat, and the base coat that I got from them recommended 2 coats or more, waiting 5 to 10 minutes in between. And the kind of the funny part about this video is this video took me several days to do. So I ended up my wife ended up having to drive around with her car like this a few times. But I just didn't have the time to complete all this in one day, especially waiting on the different things to dry. So it is what it is. So let's get a couple coats of our base coat down. And again, you can see the base coat overspray just going on other parts of the car. My mistake. Won't do that again. Easy cleanup though. If you do get overspray primer, that rubbing compound that you'll see me using and the buffer I got took it right off. It really wasn't even that much effort at all. So the overspray you see on the right hand side there, no problem. The polishing compound and a little bit of elbow grease, you can get that right off. So now we've got our base coat on there, and in my opinion it looks a lot better. Maybe it doesn't have the gloss of the rest of the car, but at least it's not, you don't have the torn up look to it with the pieces of plastic actually hanging off. I actually found a lot of this process to be fairly enjoyable. So now we have our last base coat on. It is dry. This is probably a different day. I'm certain it is. And today we're going to be putting our first coat of clear coat on there, which again, the clear coat recommendations were at least 3 to 4 coats, waiting 10 to 15 minutes in between. So we wipe it down with a tack rag, and then I'm going to take my clear coat that came, and we're going to throw several coats of that on here. And I do not know what these diamonds are that you see in this video. I noticed that later. I think either maybe something had gotten, I think it's the sun reflecting off of something, because you'll notice it goes away as I move around as if I'm standing in the shadow. But trust me, those little diamonds you see are not on the car. So let's get some clear coat on there. And here's what we have. So this is after the clear coat, and I don't know if you can see this, but it's got some orange peel to it, which I had to look up later. I wasn't real thrilled with the result at this point, but I knew that I wasn't necessarily done. But it has some orange peel, and you can see it doesn't match up perfectly. So recommendations for orange peel, at least one of the 1,000 I found, was to take a little bit of 1500 grit sandpaper while your son rides his scooter and holds the water hose for you. He's riding his purple scooter, by the way, too. So just going to wet sand with some 1500 grit sandpaper. And this was recommended for 2 things. If you have orange peel, which apparently everybody doesn't get, if you have orange peel, this is recommended. And even if you don't have orange peel, but you want to increase the gloss, you've put 3 or 4 coats of clear coat, but you don't have the gloss that you want, they recommend that you wet sand with 1500. And you can see that once we wet sanded and washed it, it looks horrible. You're like, wow, it looked pretty good. Now you've had me sand it, and it looks horrible after the 1500. But don't fret. It's weird. There's something really scary to me and bothersome about throwing sandpaper on your car, but it worked. So here we go. After the 1500 grit, it looks nasty, right? Now we take this polishing compound, and I picked up this random orbital buffer off of Amazon for literally, I think it was 25 bucks. I do recommend you get one, and I threw it on here, and I didn't record this part, and I don't know why, but this is after I used the random orbital buffer and the rubbing compound, polishing compound. And I gotta say, I really like the results, and unless I point this out, nobody has ever commented on it and said that there was some mistakes or anything. And there are, if you look really close, there are some mistakes in it. But it looks 95% better than it did before. This is my first time. There are a lot of things I learned to do differently. And if I do this again, I'll definitely do differently. One of them is absolutely, I'll do it in the garage just to keep it out of the dust. The biggest mistake I know that I made was I didn't prepare, the surface wasn't perfectly smooth. And if you look really closely at it, I couldn't get it on camera. If you look really closely at it, you can see where the surface wasn't perfectly smooth, and the paint just kind of shows that. But again, for what they wanted to fix this and what I fixed it for, I enjoyed the process. It looks really good. My wife's happy with it, which, as you know, is really all that matters. So I hope it helps, and I'll throw a link down below to the website that I got all this from, AutomotiveTouchup.com. Reach out to those guys. I think they make a pretty good product. Maybe there's a lot of products better, but for home users like me who are clueless, it worked great. So hope this helps some of you out there and makes you realize you can tackle this yourself. Or feel free to shoot me some emails about what I did wrong. I'll take it into consideration the next time I do this, which hopefully is never. All right, thanks. See y'all soon.